Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the dirt. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen versus everybody.
What up?
I'm David Jacoby.
On the cool check-in. Center stage on the mic.
We putting it on wax. It's the new style.
Let's start the show. I understand how Dave Chappelle got
so tired
there.
of this. He does it on purpose now, right?
You guys, any Chappelle show fans, I always wonder how they were doing the jingle. Woo, Chappelle show, Chappelle show. And then before you know it, he's not out there and they're like, let's start the show.
Yeah.
That's what this reminds me of.
Reggie has to push one button. That's his involvement in the intro. He pushes one button. That's what he does. He pushes a button.
He got 50,000 responsibilities, including push a button. Yep. To be honest, my only responsibility is to sit here.
Sometimes that's even hard for you.
I haven't even looked at the paper yet. I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, I'm going to start with something that's not the...
Can we not talk about sports?
Television show. No, we couldn't talk about sports.
Okay.
And we and you got a little bit of the Pistons game last night. Blake Griffin looking pretty good.
Here's what's going to happen. Listen to me rewind the tape. You look at all of the pundits the day Blake Griffin got traded. All I heard was, how does this relate to the Clippers? And Blake breaking up Lob City.
Is Doc going to get fired? Are they going to trade DeAndre?
What no one talked about except myself, and it just so happened that I happen to be a Detroit native that roots for the Detroit Pistons, friends with their owner who I know wants to breathe and win. Those are the two things Tom Scores cares about. Adding Blake to Andre Drummond, newly minted All-Star, is going to be a problem for foes in the NBA, in particular in the Eastern Conference. Yep. The difference between Andre Drummond and DeAndre Jordan plays out perfectly in the thing I've always talked about on this show. How do I distinguish bigs between their
skill and will?
Correct. And I always say Andre Drummond was on the thin line of either not developing his skill, the ability to pass, the ability to handle the ball away from the hoop, the ability to dribble, to be able to get points on the post, versus a DeAndre who, again, there's value in Will Biggs, clearly. There's Adams, there's Capella, but they have better hands, better feet, and move and are able to finish other than dunks better than DeAndre. And again, this is just flavor of the month. I would take all of those guys, but you would have to position your lineup different based on who's who. And so having Blake and Andre, it opens up the floor in a way that it didn't with DeAndre, because DeAndre always has to be on the perch down low underneath the hoop, whereas Andre could be at the high post. And he can be actually in that action and make a play.
And he's a threat to pass, too, from the high post position.
And he's still going to get you 15 to 20 boards. He's going to get you a couple of blocks, a couple of steals. And if he's finishing around the hoop, 15 to 20 points. Blake jumped out there, 20 plus, 10 plus, 5 dimes. They're going to be just fine in Detroit.
It looked pretty good. I mean, listen, it's a one-game sample size, but watching it, I was like, I could see this work, especially in the Eastern Conference. I could definitely see this work. Yep. I'm starting to believe that they're going to make the playoffs.
When Detroit plays against the elite teams in their conference, let me name them for you, all of the fans of our great NBA coverage. When they play against Boston, who are they 4-5?
What'd you say?
Who's Boston's 4-5?
Oh, 4-5, Baines and Horford.
Who's Washington's 4-5?
Gortat and whoever.
Who's Cleveland's 4-5?
Who knows?
Who's Milwaukee's 4-5?
I mean, they're all 4 and 5s, basically. They're all 1s and 5s on Milwaukee.
So you have the outliers like Embiid.
Sure.
Whiteside. Even Porzingis.
I'll throw Valanciunas in there.
Correct. And so Dwight Howard's playing really good ball. Yep. The only other defensive, physical, formidable 4-5 that I like as a matchup really against them is in Toronto with Serge Ibaka and Valanciunas. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so for the most part, they're going to be doing to me. By the way, I'm not saying they're as good as these guys because these guys are starting an all-star game. No. They're going to be a lesser version of Boogie and Anthony Davis. They're not going to approximate 25 and 13, but when you look at the stat sheet last night, I'm pretty sure that's probably what Boogie averages, 25 and 13. That's what Blake had last night. Mm-hmm. So they're not as good, but they're going to approximate a level of that production. Clearly, they're not on those all-NBA caliber levels as those guys.
How do you come out from halftime without a jersey on? I've never been in an NBA locker room. I've never worn an NBA jersey. How does this happen?
Easily. The one thing about playing sports is
you switch jerseys at halftime?
You get into routines.
Okay.
And a lot of times that routine creates superstition, which is why you don't truly hear players talk about it. Or if you ask them what their superstition or routine is, they kind of can't tell you because they don't realize that they're doing it.
Okay.
It's like we talk about performance enhancers in sports. Such and such is using steroids. He's using PEDs. A lot of you that listen to this program actually take performance enhancers every day. They're called caffeine. Yep. They're called whatever you use to get yourself started on your journey. Yep. And so I understand that.
You forgot what we were talking about, didn't you? Say it. Just say it. Just admit it. Just admit it. Jay, just admit it. Admit it. You forgot what we were talking about, didn't you?
No, admit it. I couldn't wait to say that into a microphone.
I know you. We were talking about Blake Griffin forgetting to put on the jersey at halftime.
And so when you're going into halftime and you have a specific routine, sometimes it is taking off your jersey. Sometimes I would do that also. For whatever it's worth.
You would switch jerseys at halftime?
It depends on how I'm playing.
Oh, I like that. You should change everything.
Straight up. I go to the locker room, change everything.
You got 20 at the half. You're in the same socks, same shoes.
Hey, fam, let me tell you something. I'll take off tights. I'll cut tape. I'll do everything. I'm remixing this thing. We got to start over. Huh. And so that probably could have been the case. And also there could be promotional things behind the scenes going on that we don't know about. Like, hey, take off that jersey. We're going to auction it off. We need you to sign it. Yeah. That type of thing. It's your first game-worn jersey. Yeah. And so I understand that taking place is not really a big deal.
I kind of like the Pistons. I mean, obviously the backcourt isn't the best in the league. But, it's an interesting proposal. Now that I'm looking at it to watch it with my own eyes, I was like, ooh, I kind of like this.
Again, what makes it different is the spacing that both of those gentlemen allow you to have. That's the difference. If you're playing checkers or chess, there's a difference between a guy standing at the elbow able to initiate offense, which Blake and Drummond can do, versus a guy standing on the low block. That just creates a different level of spacing that, for the Clippers, clogged up the paint a lot.
Yep.
Especially when games got close.
Well, think about one of the biggest differences between Andre and DeAndre is you can't give DeAndre the ball with his back to the basket. Like, you just don't. It's an accident if it happens. Like it's like the end of the shot clock or something. Yep. But with Andre Drummond, go ahead.
And in a league where, especially late in the clock, you do a lot of switching. So if you got a 6'7" guy guarding DeAndre, they probably won't give him the ball 80% of the time.
Yeah.
On Andre, if he don't get the ball, then he should be screaming and hollering for the next month.
You know exactly what happens if they do give DeAndre the ball and a 6'7" guy's covering. What happens?
He's going to miss if it's not a dunk.
He gets fouled. That's what happens. They foul him.
Yeah. That's the other thing.
The foul, go to the line, go ahead. And it's just like, and then you're looking at maybe we'll get a point out of this possession.
And Andre is an improved free throw shooter.
He is.
And JRLA supporter.
Shout out.
As we head in to Super Bowl weekend, we have some news. Rob Gronkowski has been cleared from concussion protocol. Speaking with reporters, he said, quote, "I'm cleared, ready to roll. It feels good." With Gronk in play, is this a lock for the Patriots?
I'll say this respectfully to the players who were fortunate enough to make it to the NBA, NFL. This is how they make a living. And I feel like you're a gladiator if you get a concussion anytime and come back to play. I've seen guys do it on a Sunday and play on a Thursday. Nobody felt like he wouldn't be cleared in 2 weeks between the last game and the Super Bowl. We all knew that he would be out there. I think with him playing, though, it's unique because as I joked about the NFL's lack of parity, it made me think about something. The last 2 times the Patriots won the Super Bowl, they actually were doing it without their second best player, Rob Gronkowski. So I can't now say because he's healthy, they're now guaranteed to win.
Oh, I think they're going to win. Who do you think is going to win?
Philly.
You want to do a 20 push-up bet on Wax?
I'll do whatever.
20 push-ups?
I think Philly's going to win.
All right, Patriots are going to win.
Their front seven, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, going to be bossing up.
We'll see.
Jalen going to get a pick.
How's your shoulder feel? You'll be doing some push-ups.
And my guy Tom Brady is going to have a really good game. But Philly's going to win. I talked about them being a complete football team all year.
Last night, we had a great game in Denver.
I was watching it with all 4 eyes.
As was I. It came down to a comeback from the Thunder and this final play where Gary Harris completely loses Russell Westbrook, gets a great pass, makes the three, and then after the three was made, Russell Westbrook just lost the game. It was his man that scored, and then this fan comes on the court and starts screaming in Westbrook's face. Westbrook gives him a little shove. Now, the NBA is investigating the incident. Jalen, do you think Westbrook should be punished in any way for his contact with this fan?
He should not, is not, and it won't be up for consideration from the NBA. And you're going to hear a lot of people speak into microphones professionally and talk about this topic. I've actually took some time to think about everything that I saw, and I'm really going to unpack it for the fans of sports to follow, but it also is a life trait. Now, first and foremost, that last couple of minutes of that game was terrific. Both teams were making shots. Both teams were making threes. It was a fantastic finish. Paul George had over 40.
I was tired, but I had to stay up for it.
Russell Westbrook had a triple-double. Gary Harris.
Paul George is crazy. Yeah. You know, Steven Adams, Jamal Murray made Steven Adams fall.
Absolutely. It was a terrific game. So, the last play, when you're the defensive team, you don't know if you want your guy to play center field, who's guarding the ball, or to get closer to the ball. Because usually, if he's off, then you have room to make that cross-court pass. If he's up on the ball, then you can't throw that pass, number one. Number two, for Russell, you're underneath the rim, and you fall asleep on Gary Harris, understanding that I'm a really good athlete, I may be able to recover. And the big barreling down the lane and knocking down Jeremy Grant, that's exactly what he designed to do. That's just called being big. And that's where I talk about, like, players being able to guard their position versus just getting barreled over. And so now when he falls, that hesitation, just a little bit of those bodies falling toward Russell, was the brief second that stopped him from getting out there. And what a great catch and shoot by Gary Harris.
Great pass, too, from Jokic.
But here's what I want people to learn from. And this is why I wish at the end of each NBA season, while NBA Cares programs do an amazing job, and I can list 500 million charities that they've benefited in the United States and across the world as it relates to fine money and all types of money that the NBA dedicates to, you know, help the underprivileged. So I'm not even taking shots at the programs. But this is why I think the money should stay in the city where the NBA teams play when individuals get techs in particular. Because when you get a tech, that means for a moment you lose your cool, your anger. And how you deal with that level of anger and disappointment is a life trait that, as a founder of a school, as someone that's been a young man that tries to be an influencer of young people, this level of problem solving is what's gotten lost upon our youth. And how you behave when you're upset, when you're disappointed. Do you all of a sudden just punch the person in the jaw? Do you just go get a gun and shoot them? Do you just go and turn it into an altercation when somebody says something you don't like? The reason why I'm bringing all of that up is Russell Westbrook had a decision. There was somebody on the floor that clearly should not have been there. First and foremost, game security was wrong. They let Russell and the league and the players down. He should have never been in that position. This is not college. This is not a court storming. No way, shape, or form, even if he's a family member, he should have been on the floor.
It's
so
also right
first.
After the final buzzer, which is when something like that can happen. Security should have done a better job.
Correct. That's number one. But number two, how do you behave when you're placed in this position where somebody's not where they're supposed to be? Russell could have hauled off and punched the guy 2 or 3 times.
Sure, and he's not enough time to think about it. You're just going off instinct at that point.
But that's not the point. The point is the rest of the world would have been like, that's what the fan get. He shouldn't have been out on the floor. I would have punched him too. Yep. That ain't how you behave when you're not in harm's way. He meant no physical threat to Russell Westbrook at that moment. No. So as a human being, that's when you decipher. Is this person out on the floor to mean harm physically toward me or mentally? No. Because here's the thing, and this is the other lesson I want to unpack. If the fan was on the floor and Russell's team had won and he was a part of the home team, they would have been slapping fives.
Yep.
So at that point, he was just on the wrong side of the game. An emotional game. The fan was on the floor. Russell was like, just give me some space. It's all good. Security intervened. The fan went back to the side. For me, no harm, no foul. Now the fans should be punished, not forever. For the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, honestly,
for the rest of the year.
He wasn't being violent. He was a little overzealous after a very exciting moment.
And what did they serve at sporting events?
Adult beverages.
Correct.
Something tells me that he may have had a couple. Yep. Jalen Rose, it's time for Soft Move or Boss Move. PGA Tour events are usually sophisticated, calm, relaxed. Not the Phoenix Open. The Phoenix Open is the PGA Tour event that involves the most alcohol, and something tells me that this gentleman, right here on the fairway, may have imbibed a couple adult beverages himself before he disrobed and then started breakdancing all over the golf course. Jalen Rose, getting hammered, streaking at a sports event. Soft move or boss move?
Soft move. And as somebody that grew up watching and participating in breakdancing, favorite movies, Wild Style, Breaking.
You don't think he's on that level?
Street, that isn't what he was doing right there. You don't think
the Rocksteady crew was ready to induct him?
No doubt. He was not doing that. No. Now, hopefully it was because of what you said, a couple of beverages. It looked like it was about something a lot stronger.
It was more than a couple beverages.
Yes.
The thing about him, though, is he got naked and started streaking around, but the whole time he was streaking, he was covering up his genitalia with his hand. It's like, if you're going to streak, you can't be shy. You know what I mean? Like, go all the way.
Or I think he was trying to decide, like, if he was going to be shy or go all the way.
I don't think he even really knew what he was doing, let's be honest. Moving on. This one's interesting. A man in Minnesota who was with Tom Brady was seen carrying what certainly seemed to be the transcript for a Tom Brady MVP acceptance speech. What? Having an acceptance speech written for you before you won the award. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move.
Why is that?
What? Because there's no parity in the NFL. We know who's winning MVP, don't we?
Probably Tom Brady.
We know who's winning the Super Bowl, don't we?
Probably Tom Brady.
And so, who's winning Finals MVP?
Probably Kevin Durant.
Who's winning Super Bowl MVP?
Super Bowl MVP? Tom Brady.
Okay. And so, who's winning League MVP in the NBA?
Probably James Harden.
Okay. You notice that it was someone different? So, it's a boss move because I know I'm going to win it. They ain't going to give it to Todd Gurley.
It's also, you're Tom Brady. What do? You prepare. You're always prepared. Preparation is part of the football. It's part of the football DNA when you're a football player, so he's prepared.
I like the professional decorum that you executed, but also, what about the fact that I play the glamour position? They're not going to give it Antonio Brown and let him be the first wide receiver to do it. They're not going to give it to Todd Gurley because he had over 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. They're not deserving. I know that I'm getting MVP.
So we talk about preparation in football and how it's so important. That's why this was interesting. Bill Belichick attended the Timberwolves game last night, a mere 72 hours before the Super Bowl itself. What? Jalen Rose, Bill Belichick attending the Timberwolves game. Soft move or boss move?
Not only is it a boss move, it's a soft move that every time we show that clip, we cut out his significant other. He wasn't there alone. We need to stop doing that in sports.
I was surprised by this. I thought he would be in the lab, bunkered down in a windowless room, going over film of every single snap that the Eagles have had in the last 3 years.
Hit the brakes.
That's what I thought he would be doing.
I want to teach you guys something. Hit the brakes. That would have been the guy that showed up at the basketball game alone. The guy that's in a bunker, hasn't seen the light of day in 23 hours because he's so focused solely on the big game. A lot of that's just talk, ladies and gentlemen. He has a significant other. He's living his life. He could go to a basketball game for 3 hours of the day and not detract from him getting ready to play. And he's friends with Coach Thibodeau from their days in Boston.
I also heard he left in the second quarter. He's like, I just got to show my face, save us up the Tibbs, and I'm a bounce. Moving on. Steelers wide receiver Juju Schuster, right? He was with a fan. Fan asked for a picture. And the fan was a football fan, but obviously a Patriots fan. Smith-Schuster threw in a subtle little middle finger during the photo. Soft move or boss move, low-key middle finger during a picture with a fan.
That's his personality, so it's a boss move.
Okay.
It's not what I would do.
It doesn't seem very respectful.
But he's one of those guys that, beyond the way he performs on the field, that the media has gravitated to his personality. Enes Kanter comes to mind, Joel Embiid. Beyond the fact that they probably are not on the level of like best player in the game or multi-time champion. Those are the type of players
or best receiver on the team.
Correct. We not only follow what they do based on their performance, we like to follow what they do, and these are the type of things that show personality that no one's going to take it serious and malicious because they've disarmed the public, and that's a great way to behave if you're going to be in a public eye.
So if you're going to take a picture with somebody, he just did a very subtle middle finger. Like, he kind of kept it low key. Our colleague and friend Chauncey Billups took a picture with a legend.
Chauncey!
He's a fan. Not so subtle middle finger from Bill Russell there. That's a boss move. Look at the face. Chauncey's smiling. Bill Russell's just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Here's the thing. Mr. Big Shot, you see we got you on the program to give you some IG love. Here's what Bill Russell's probably thinking. And I wish there would be a cloud over his head right now. No question. We always having these conversations about who's the GOAT.
Yep.
In the NBA, now with Tom Brady, we're comparing those
Michael
two
Jordan
together.
Yep.
And he like, I got more rings than both of those guys put together.
That's what he's saying.
Number one.
I got so many rings I can't fit him on this long finger.
Number two, the city of Boston has the audacity. New England has the will to love Tom Brady just as much, if not more than me. That's one thing he's thinking. The other thing he's thinking is, I don't want to be on the social media stuff. Why am I taking my picture?
Why are you taking my picture, Chauncey?
I don't want to be.
It's one thing for a fan, but come on, Chauncey. Yeah, I love it. That's a boss move for sure.
And then lastly, he like, make sure you at me. When you post this,
I need some followers. Make
trying
sure
to
you
get my likes up.
It's a big weekend, Super Bowl. Everyone hosts different Super Bowl parties and different events. And Ricky Williams is hosting a Super Bowl party. I believe it's right here in Los Angeles. And it is a marijuana-themed, cannabis-friendly, medicinal Super Bowl party. There'll be vegan food. There'll be massage therapists. And it's limited to only 50 people. Jalen Rose hosting a medicinal Super Bowl party. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move. Because it's true to his character. He's in California where it's legal. And if individuals get a chance to attend, they're going to have to pay, which means they're actively participating and accepting the consequences that may or may not take place at the party. And so this is who he was that got him out of the league. Mm-hmm. He continued to promote and advertise smoking and
now he's in the business. He's got a gym with marijuana. It's like Ricky Williams. He's like really dedicated to medicinal. Like his entire lifestyle is dedicated to medicinal. Good for him.
Yep,
no doubt.
Wish him the best. Enjoy the game, Ricky.
Shout out.
And now, the Don't Get Fired topic of the day.
Jalen, so don't get fired topic of the day.
You going
so don't get fired
between
topic
the
of the day.
eyeballs early.
Here's the thing. Well, here's the thing. The executives, now that we're on during the day, the executives can see the television program. But on the podcast exclusive content, we can go a little further. There's a video from Tom Brady's documentary, which you may or may not have seen. It's controversial. People are talking about it this week. They're not talking about the game. They're talking about Tom Brady kissing his son on the lips. Here's my thing when it comes to parenting. You do whatever you do in your own house, and I'm not going to judge it. Whatever you do in your own house is completely fine with me. You can kiss your kids on the lips. You can not kiss your kids on the lips. You can, whatever happens in your home is completely fine with me. I have no judgments whatsoever. Your thoughts?
This is a terrific topic. And I'm glad we went here because it makes me unpack a few things. First and foremost, as an adult, you have an opportunity, especially when your kids live with you, to kind of set some sexual parameters that hopefully become guidelines in their lives.
Okay.
Little things. As the parent of 3 kids, 2 biological, oldest son, Ladarius, 2 daughters,
Shout out to
Mariah
B.
and Gracie.
Gracie Mariah.
There are certain things when they're young, male or female, that you do when they're infant stage versus once they start to form body parts that they understand exist.
Yes.
On both sides. And so being able to play out that dynamic, I am more likely to be the dad in the bathtub with an infant than I am with a 5-year-old.
It's an interesting thing as a parent myself. My son is 4. We used to double shower. You know what I mean? He'd be in the shower, I'd be in the shower. Oh, Daddy, can I use your soap? We're using the loofah, whatever it's called. He turns 3. Double shower, it just seems a little weirder. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain thing to it. Now, we're going to get off the Tom Brady thing, because, again, like, whatever he wants to do is fine, right? Like, whatever. But, like, it is an interesting, as the children grow and they get more conscious of what's happening and what's proper, what's improper, what private parts are, what's okay, and how do you deal with all this. It's something that you kind of have to navigate.
And for me, also, it's how they're developing. This is what I mean by when you get a chance to live with them and nurture and watch them grow each day. And that development is not only with their private parts, but also hormonal. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was different taking a bath with Q when he was 1 or 2 versus when he's 3 or 4, because he might be standing there and all of a sudden he get excited. And both of you guys are in the shower, and then now you're setting a sexual parameter almost. That, okay, now he's a little bit older now, you're able to be in the shower alone. And it's the same thing having daughters. Like, as they're young, you know, you're bathing them and or walking in and out of the bathroom with them, regardless of whether they're naked or not. But once they start to get a little older, and the 2 words I'm going back to is they start developing and they start to have their own hormones. At some point, for me personally, I don't want to be in the room when they're naked.
Yeah. It's one of those things. And again, like, we're not saying what you should do. Correct. We're just saying our experiences as parents. Because I don't care what other people do.
But Jacoby, here's what you're also doing. And again, this is the sexual parameters I'm talking about. And it has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with sexual preference. You're teaching them how to cover themselves up. Like, there's a level of decorum that you need to have when you're somewhere showering. Say you're at a gym. Say you're at a spa. Say you're at a swimming pool. Is it in private? Is it in public? Is it at home? Is it at a hotel? So these parameters you hope that you start to establish at home, that at a certain age when you get out of the bathtub, there should not be someone seeing you naked. And maybe unless it's your sibling that is probably of the same gender, and or your mom when you're a woman, and or your dad when you're a man, because there are different level of conversations that men have with their son and daughters.
Of course.
And women have with their son and daughters. And so you're teaching them that as a young lady, this is how you behave. This is how you cover up. This is how you protect yourself. And how does that translate into kissing your son and or your daughter on the mouth? The reason why I gave those examples about bathing and decorum first is because I'm translating that into kissing them the exact same way. When my daughter is so very young as an infant, of course you're kissing them anywhere, on their feet, on their face, on their lips. But at some point, my goatee, in my opinion, should not be kissing son or daughter on their mouth when they get maybe 4 or 5.
Sure, but that's you.
Correct.
My point is,
and I'm the one speaking into the microphone.
Everyone's at liberty to make their own decisions.
Correct.
It's also cultural too. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? I haven't been to every country in the world, but certain countries it's more acceptable later. You know, and Italian men kiss each other in the cheek all the time, and some cultures don't. It's just kind of the way it goes. And I think that all of this conversation, that this one clip, it's so weird how this one clip has started this sort of like online debate and conversation about affection and parenting. But here's the thing, everybody. As a parent, whatever it takes to get you through the day, however you express your love, however it works for you, as long as you're not doing something terrible to your children, God bless you, whatever happens in your house.
But also, here's what you can't overlook. Certain siblings need more love. They need more affection. They need more attention. And if that means kiss them on the forehead, kiss them on the lips, kiss them on the backside, if that's going to make sure that they're able to function and get their goals accomplished, then do that too.
Sure. Do you kiss your children on the lips?
No.
Did you when they were kids?
I just gave the chronological order of how, to me, that should go.
I didn't. I've never kissed my kids on the lips, but in-laws do. I have no trouble with it. It's just something I just don't do. One reason is because there's a lot of drool. You know what I mean? It's just really sloppy and gross, especially Chloe, one of my daughters. Shout out. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back on Monday on ESPN2.
The Eagles will win the Super Bowl.
Patriots, 20 push-ups.